And when we talk, I just look at you.
What is that?
When we talk.
Hey, do you have an idea for a book that you've had for like 20 or 30 years? And you keep saying, I'm going to write a book. Oh, I have such a great book idea. Well, you know what? Talkers talk, writers write. If you have an idea for a book, you need to write it. Our next guest did exactly that. My name is Vin Dacquino. Our next guest is Jeanne Troiano. Jeanne, let's talk writing.
Nice to meet you.
You had an idea years ago
Yes.
that you started, and you said, one of these days I'm going to finish that book. You did. Who is Jeanne Troiano, and what is this book about?
Jeanne Troiano is a mother of 3 children, boys, and
All boys?
all boys.
Woo!
I hit the jackpot. I was lucky. And many years ago when they were little, like many parents do, they read to their children. I used to make up stories. And it got to a point when I'd bring them in to go to bed, and I'd say, what do you want me to read? And they'd say, tell us a story, make up a story. And I did that. And that was just normal stories. However, one Christmas, my oldest son and my youngest son were out with their dad, and the middle guy and I were home, and he wanted Mommy to tell him a story. And I said, well, what kind of a story? It was Christmas time. He said, tell me a Christmas story. So we snuggled up on the couch with the tree there, and Freddie was born. It was a one-time shot at this story, and it just,
And you just,
it
did
flowed.
you just pull
It
Freddie
flowed.
out of the air?
Yes, it flowed, and it was beautiful. And at that time, if you remember, the big thing where the kids were getting these little True Test tape recorders with the double reels.
Oh, yes, yes.
And we had recorded it.
Wow.
And then we went out to dinner that day, and we bought the recorder. We put the recorder on, and Star Trek was there.
Oh.
My son, who got the recorder, didn't know Freddie was on there, and he recorded
Oh, no. Star Trek right over
right
Freddie.
over it. So it was a while of putting it all back together again. And that was how Freddie started.
Wow. So it isn't Freddie the Fir. It's Freddie the Fir, the last Christmas tree.
Yes.
Now, where does the last Christmas tree come in?
Okay, Freddie the Fir was a little tree on a tree farm, and every year he had to wait to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then finally this year, the men that came for the trees, Freddie was the first tree they took. When they got to the lot, he was there with other trees. And one of those trees, now on Christmas Eve, there was Freddie the Fir, Bella the Balsam, and Scotty the Scotch Pine, and they were the last 3. And then Bella went, and then there was just Freddie and
Oh, Freddie was all alone on
and
the lot.
Scotty. And then Scotty goes, Freddie's all alone. And he starts reminiscing about when he was on the lot and when he was on the farm and how long it took him to get picked. And the gentleman that owned the place came around and took a look and said, I got 1 tree left. I'll get rid of that after Christmas. And Freddie responds, get rid of? Don't do that. If you don't pick me, if you don't let me stay here, someone won't pick me. How could I be the first Christmas tree they picked, and now I'm the last Christmas tree? And that's how the last Christmas tree
And
comes
so
into it.
then the children come, and
No.
they look at the tree?
No, what happened is when the tree store is open, it's Christmas Eve, it's almost time to close, and the mommy comes in with her kids, and they picked Bella. And then a couple came in, and they picked Scotty. And now Freddie is the last tree on the lot.
Wow.
And he's all alone, the lights go out, it starts to snow, and Freddie is wishing that it would snow so much and cover him so nobody would know he wasn't picked. And he's there, and he's very sad, and all of a sudden he hears a crunching in the snow, tires, and he's car pulls up, and the gentleman is looking in, and Freddie's waving his branches and trying to let this guy know, but he realizes it's not worth it because the man who owns the place left. And all of a sudden, he hears voices. And he hears the man say, "Yeah, I would have been gone if it wasn't for my dog. He ran off. I had to wait for him to come back." So Freddie, he's happy about that. And then the gentleman comes in, and there's some more dialogue and stuff. And eventually, Freddie gets picked.
Oh, nice.
And now he's happy because he's going to go to somebody's house for Christmas. What he doesn't know is he's not going to somebody's house. They bring him to a place, take him inside, and everybody starts fussing and decorating him and getting him ready. And of course, tomorrow is Christmas, so we have to have Freddie, ready, or the tree ready. And the next morning, Freddie is talking about how tired he's not going to be tired. I'm going to be the best tree they ever saw. I don't know whose house this is, but this is going to be the best Christmas tree they ever had. Next morning, a lady comes in, and Freddie looks past her, and he says, "There's nobody else here. Where's everybody?" The woman comes in, and she puts her arm in the branches, click, and the lights go on, and Freddie is all illuminated, and he's happy, and he's still wondering, and the woman says to him, "Well, tree, you got a big job to do. Whoa. It's bad enough to be sick, but to be sick and away from home, you're in a hospital, and you got to make a lot of children happy."
Oh, wow.
So then the door opens later on, and all the children come in, and some of them, of course, in wheelchair, crutches, whatever you would see in a hospital. And everybody is looking at Freddie, and he is so filled with pride, he can't believe. And he keeps saying, he looks up and he sees the bottom of branches, and he looks down and he sees the tops, and he keeps saying, "Oh, I wish I could see what I look like, but I can see in everybody else I look good." And as he's looking out, Santa Claus is sitting on a chair next to him. They're singing Christmas carols. And he looks across the room as he's looking out over all these children, and he looks and he looks, and he goes, "I can't believe it. I can't believe it." For across the room on the wall is a mirror.
Oh,
and
wow.
Freddie looks in the mirror and he sees himself.
Beautiful.
And just beautiful. And the last line of the story is that Freddie the Fir, the last Christmas tree, is now the happiest Christmas tree.
Oh, beautiful.
And the last page of the book has the tree drawn by the illustrator in black and white, like you would do for a coloring book. And it says, "How do you see Freddie?" And it encourages the children to color Freddie the way they see him.
Tell me about these illustrations. These are very nice illustrations.
Yeah, they were done by the company. They were done by the company,
Wow.
yes. And the funny thing is, when the illustrations first came out, the book came out, I got a phone call from one of my sons, and he said, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Why?" He said, "There's 2 mistakes in the illustrations."
Uh-oh.
So what he had done, if you look at the last page, you'll see the black and white picture, and it has candy canes. In the first printing, they put the candy canes upside down, so it looked like golf clubs hanging off a Christmas tree. So production had to stop while they stopped all the thing and did the book over again, and now that's why it's coming out a little later than it should have been.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. When I did Kiss the Candy Days Goodbye,
Right.
the first cover was not this cover. First cover, I had the 4 main characters standing, supposedly, in the river on rocks.
Okay.
Because Jimmy had diabetes.
Okay.
And he's having an insulin reaction. And they're running from rock to rock. And all of a sudden, he starts having this reaction. Too much insulin, too much
Excitement.
So he's having a reaction. So he reaches in and he gets his lifesavers out, and he takes a lifesaver. That's the scene that they choose.
Okay.
Now, what happens is they send me a pencil drawing of the cover. I look, love it. Great job. I approve it. When the cover's done, they're not in the river. Their pants are all rolled up. They're barefoot, and they're standing in the middle of the woods. The artist didn't realize that that was a river that they were standing in.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of backward, but it went ahead No one ever noticed.
Oh, all right.
Now, of course, they know because I just told.
Right.
But you never really know.
No, no.
Now, this book had a journey that's almost as interesting as Freddie's.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about when you finally decided you were going to publish this, and what was the story there?
The first attempt to publish this, I had sent in an unsolicited manuscript to a children's publishing company. And I received a call back from the editor, and he said, "Do you know what you accomplished? You sent an unsolicited manuscript. They usually wind up on the secretary's desk." And he said, "Anyway, we're interested in publishing your piece."
Wow.
And I said, "Well, what do I do from here?" And he said, "I would suggest you get a good lawyer because there may be merchandising." So I took his advice and I got a good lawyer. And then the good lawyer and I got together. And then she, in turn, kept calling this editor. And he was unwilling to put certain conditions in the contract that she felt were important for me. And when I called him to find out how things were progressing, he said, your lawyer is a you-know-what.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, it sounds to me like she's doing her job."
Oh.
So I said, "You know something? You recommended I get a lawyer. I got a lawyer. It doesn't pay for me to pay them and not take their advice. So I'm sorry, but
Makes sense.
if you don't want to at least meet us halfway, I have no choice but to take the book back." At which point I was told that company would never again entertain the idea of publishing my book and blah, blah, blah. And I took it home and threw it on a dresser because my children were old enough now I didn't read them stories anymore.
Right.
But the grandchildren came along.
Ah, there you go.
So Freddie comes out of the mothballs.
Yep.
And I'm reading to Freddie, and it became a tradition every Christmas. And then one year, my granddaughter, who was in second grade, she called me and said, "Gigi, I want you to come to school for Special Persons Month." And I said, "What is that?" And she said, "You have to come and do something." I said, "What do you want me to do, give a kid a haircut?" Because I'm a barber. She said, "No, I want you to come and read Freddie." So I went and I read Freddie. And I have to tell you something. The children's reaction at the time was moderate. It was nice. They thanked me at the end. But then 3 weeks later, the same granddaughter calls me up and she said, "You didn't want to come to school and read Freddie, but I want you to know you won."
You
I said,
won.
"What did I win?" And she said they had to vote on the best of the 25 people that came in.
Wow.
And everybody that did something. And the children liked Freddie. And at that moment, I knew I have to do something with this book because what better critique than
That's
the
right.
children that are going to hear the
Man,
book?
when the grandchildren say, "I like it," you'll jump.
Well, you jump, but you say, maybe a little nepotism here. But when the strangers' children's all said it, then I got serious about it. And I have to tell you, matter of fact, the kids would say to me, "What are you going to do with the book? What are you going to do with Freddie?" And I said, "You know what? I'm going to leave it to you. When I kick the bucket, you can do whatever you want with it." So one Sunday, the sons came with their families. We had dinner. We get done, and they said, "Sit down. You're not going in the kitchen." I said, "Why?" "We're doing Freddie." It was like a board of directors meeting. So they sat there, and my grandchildren were instrumental in getting it done.
Nice. We can't do enough for our grandchildren. And I just did a show recently with another author who wrote a book dedicated to his grandchild. And we talked about the fact that we've been there. We went through the whole kids thing.
Right.
And somehow on that second time around, when it's your grandchildren, you say, "Nah, first time I should have, could have, this time I will." And you want to make it right.
Right.
And you don't wait. You don't say later, maybe, I might. You say, "I'm doing it." And I give you credit for deciding, "I'm going to put this out there." It's a wonderful story. It's heartwarming.
Thank you.
What did you want those kids to walk away from that book with?
I wanted them to walk away with the idea that there's sadness in certain things about Christmas. There's joy. There's feeling of satisfaction. You know, you're talking about the kids in the school. Those kids. Yeah. They were, when I finished the story, it was almost like nobody moved right away.
Yeah.
You know? And then they all applauded and stuff like that. So I knew that each child, in their own way, got something out of that story that maybe the other kid didn't get.
And there's something about being left out.
Yeah.
And there's so many kids out there who
Right.
feel that way.
Right.
They feel that nobody likes them.
Right.
You know, it's that old story of you go to gym class
Yep.
and everybody gets picked for the team but you.
That's right.
And then somebody gets stuck with you.
Right.
And that's a fear that so many kids
Yes.
have.
Yes.
And they just don't want to be forgotten or
Right.
left out. And Freddie, in the last moment, not only does he get picked, but he becomes special.
Yes.
And there's something in all of us that's special. And when I did Kiss the Candy Days Goodbye, Jimmy had diabetes.
Right.
And when he's finally diagnosed and the doctor tells him, and she says, well, you know, your life is going to change now. You're going to be different. He said, I don't want to be different. She says, yo, Jimmy,
Calm down.
you don't have a choice, buddy. You have to be different.
Right.
And he said, but I don't want to be. And she said, listen to me. It's not being different that's important. It's what you do with that difference that makes a difference.
Right.
You have to take whatever it is that's special in you, make it shine.
Right.
Freddie, boy, did he shine. And at the right moment. So sometimes it does mean being patient.
Right.
It does mean waiting. And there are going to be those moments, those scary moments, when you think people don't care.
That's true. And you know what? I also think there's a certain time for an emotional book.
Yeah.
And maybe in this society of maybe 15, 20 years ago, things were different. And now people are getting back to feelings.
Yes.
And in this particular book, a lot of people will identify with Freddie, you know, the kid that was passed over for the soccer team, or got a part in a play and never got to play it, or something like that. So,
Yeah.
and the other thing I wanted to mention is, if you look at the back of the book on the bottom, it says a portion of the proceeds from the sale of this book will be donated to organizations who provide health care services to children fighting serious diseases.
Oh,
and my first
wonderful.
one is going to be Make-A-Wish. I have a friend of mine
Wonderful.
whose son died from muscular dystrophy, and Make-A-Wish was wonderful. So, you know something? If it sells a lot, they'll get a portion. If it sells a little, they'll get it all, because a little isn't going to buy me a new car.
Yeah.
So I would rather give it to
I hear
an
you.
organization, and
I hear you.
organizations in the future that children
I've
are
worked
going
with several kids. In fact, we had a kid on this show who was just spectacular. Little Sean Callahan was diagnosed with cancer when he was 18 months old.
Wow.
He went from 18 months to 10
Right.
without symptoms. Then all of a sudden, they started again. And he went through, I have to say, hell.
Yep.
And it was so rough for him. But he's such a little trooper. And he came on this show.
Did
and
he?
he talked about what it was like. And in fact, we just recently did a book signing together at
Right.
Barnes & Noble. And
Nice.
he wrote a book called Don't Give Up.
Uh-huh.
And that's, you can't give up.
Nope.
You can't ever give
Nope.
up. And you're right, with so many things in the movies and in these games about killing and death,
Right.
the news is saturated with horrible stories. And time again, people getting executed in other countries. We're back in Iraq. There's just so much out there to be sad about.
Right.
We need a chance to smile.
We need an emotional connection again.
We
We're
do
all
need an emotional
disconnected.
connection.
We're disconnected.
Yeah, and we are disconnected. Now, the back of your book, I teach writers
Okay.
that when a person goes into a bookstore, they pick up the book and they look at the front cover. Then what do?
Turn it over.
They turn it over, they go to the back cover, they read the back cover. Then what do?
Flip through it.
They
go to
flip
the
through
first
and they go to
page.
chapter 1,
Right.
page 1. If it makes it through those three things,
Right.
you have a buyer. So you have to get through. Can you read for me the first two paragraphs on the back cover?
Sure. Okay. Freddie the Fir by Jeanne Troiano tells the story of the hope and disappointment of the last Christmas tree left on the lot after it closes on Christmas Eve, and how that sadness turns to joy when, through sheer luck, he gets his wish to have a home of his own and a chance to make many children happy. It is a beautifully told tale, simply written and deeply felt by the author, and it will touch children's hearts as well as their parents as they root for Freddie to find a home, because Freddie is like every child who was picked at last at soccer or had not gotten a part in the school play. The story is a metaphor with universal appeal.
Yeah. Do you know what I thought of immediately when I read this?
What?
Adoption. I was thinking of children who were chosen.
Picked, right.
And that is so special. And I would recommend this book
Thank you.
to children who were adopted, to say, listen, you may not have been born into this family, but you were chosen into this
That's
family.
right, yeah.
You were hand-picked. And that's what Freddie was. And then Freddie found the light. He found his own beauty within that
Right.
choosing. And that's what I like about this book. And again, I would recommend it to children
Thank
who
you.
are adopted.
I appreciate that.
The other thing that readers do is they go to the first page. I'm going to do that.
Okay.
And I'm going to see what your first page is like. Christmas was very, very near. The children's letters to Santa were mailed. The gifts were wrapped. And all over town, the stores were beginning to quiet down. Last-minute shoppers were racing home, arms full of bundles. On the corner lot where they sold Christmas trees, some people were trying theirs on the tops of their cars and going home to decorate before midnight. Tonight was Christmas Eve. Would a reader continue reading from that point on? Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm going to move to the next page.
Thank you.
People didn't pay much attention to a few trees that stood around in the back of the lot, unsold. Bella the balsam, Scotty the Scotch pine, Freddie the fir, and a few others were standing in the round pieces of pipe that Mr. Troy, the owner, used to hold them upright. A few stragglers walked anxiously around and made their choices. A man and his wife stopped in front of Bella the balsam, looking at her from all sides. Bella wished very hard that they would pick her. The man wasn't too sure. He glanced over at Scotty, the Scotch pine. Oh boy, Scotty thought, this is it. I'm going. Hey, Freddie whispered, I'm over here. Come on, take a look at me. Of course, the man couldn't hear the trees. He thought for a while. I'd like the pine. Looks good, nice and full. Won't need a lot of ornaments. He remembered with a smile the tree last year. His wife walked back to Bella the balsam, who was standing right next to Freddie the fir. We had a pine last year, she said. Let's get this balsam, okay? Oh boy, Freddie thought. I was hoping they would pick me. Bella waved her branches as they carried her past her friends. Goodbye, Scotty. Goodbye, Freddie. Hope you get picked soon. The owner, Mr. Troy, spun a net around Bella with a machine that whirred. He whistled as he worked, and just like that, Bella was gone.
You like it?
It has a wonderful ring to it. It feels human. It captures, for me, the spirit of Christmas. If we can, I always upset Dave by pulling this on him. But, Dave, can we focus on one of these illustrations so I can talk a little bit about the wonderful illustrations in this book? In many ways, they're childlike, but colorful and creative and warm. And that's what this book is for me, warmth.
Mm-hmm.
It captures the spirit and warmth of Christmas. So here's a big question for you. Now you have this book. You're getting some wonderful responses. Hopefully it's going to sell off the shelves. You'll be able to make some kids happy with the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Is there another book coming?
There's always another book.
Ah, you're right. There is always
There's
another
always
book
another
coming.
book. I don't know if it'll be a Christmas tree.
Okay.
One of my kids said to me, well, they usually do a trilogy, so you'll have to do 3. I said, a Christmas tree only lasts one season.
Yeah, there
well,
you
you
go.
could do Bella and you could do, no. But there probably will be.
Is
I've
there
done
a
writing.
special theme? I mean, this is a wonderful theme of being chosen.
Mm-hmm.
Last minute, but chosen.
Right.
And then shining.
Right.
Will the next one be the same theme, or do you think it may just go completely different?
No, there's a couple of characters that I have in mind that I always told the boys stories and made up about them. It almost runs along the lines of an Aesop fable, because as a mother, you realize the more you tell your kids, the less they hear. But when you tell it in a story form using other characters, they get the message. I'll give you a quick example. I used to do that with my grandchildren when I picked them up and back and forth to school
Right.
and stuff, and I would tell them about these 2 characters. You want to hear the characters' names?
What are they?
Goobna and Birdlegs. They were 2
Okay.
characters, and one of them was always willing to nudge the envelope a little bit, and the other one always wanted to listen to what he was told to do. Long story short, I would tell the story to the kids and didn't realize how much impact they made until my granddaughter is getting ready to go off to Binghamton University.
Right.
And I tried to give her the pep talk about strangers and don't go here and don't do that. And she said, Gigi, don't worry. Birdlegs and Goobna, they scared me enough. I know who to trust and who not to
Oh,
trust.
there you go. And that's a message she'll take with her.
Yes, yes.
I cannot be more pleased to have you on here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
It's my
sharing
pleasure.
a little bit of your heart, a little bit of your story, a little bit of your spirit. It is a pleasure to have you here with us. Stay tuned for other writers. In the meantime, Jeanne, what a pleasure.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Good luck with this book.
Thank you.
Let's hope it goes through the ceiling.
That would be wonderful.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here with us.
We done?
We're done.
How was
Glad
it?
to have you.
How was it? Any
Rolling
good?
Credits right now.
Yeah.